All right, welcome back to the Dot Wave podcast. This is episode 17. Today we're going to be talking to Michael Herman, who plays in the band Noxious, and his own project Codex of the Gods. Just really, really sick hardcore and mathcore. I don't know what else you want to call it. Deathcore, mathcore, something. It's really
heavy
nasty.
music.
Yeah,
it is heavy music.
So how you been?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man. Honestly, we're going to go record 2 new songs for Noxious. We're going on Saturday up to New York and New Jersey, and we're going to be tracking with I don't know them that well, but we work with Ryan Harvey remotely. Like, he used Listen to the Audio Movers plugins and stuff, and helped us with some of the little loose ends on the couple tracks. And we're going up to record those with one of I guess his engineer, an engineer, Antonio, up in like Middle Village, New York, or something like that. In just a couple days. So that's pretty exciting.
It's really exciting.
I'm definitely.
You should remind people who else Ryan Harvey has done, because he's not a name that people know as much, but he has worked with some really cool bands.
Yeah, and he's the reason we decided to go to him is because I found out that he did he mixed I Am's Life Through Torment record, which
that's dope.
Which honestly, I mean, that's just one of the. I mean, come on, that's like one of the heavy records from the last 5 years or however many years it's been, in my opinion, at least. I mean, that shit's hard,
filthy.
Yeah, and the mix is so cool on that one. There's so much space in it, and it still slaps. Like, everything pumps every time you hit it. He also did, I think it was Kublai Khan.
Oh wow,
their first full length album.
Yeah, he did Balancing Survival and Happiness, which I think most of us would agree is like the album that people really love from Kublai Khan.
It fucking slaps.
I think Kublai Khan, I think they kind of always make something good every time they make something.
I agree.
That was, I mean, that was for the age we are too, that, Balancing Survival and Happiness, I'm sure is a kind of game-changing thing just from the time. But
when did that come out? I know a lot of people.
Was it 2011?
I don't know the exact year.
I was just looking at it. So let's see. That was on Artery Recording, so it was on Franz's label.
Yeah, I haven't heard someone say that in a while.
2014. Yeah, that was the label that Franz made.
2014. He had 2 things going, right? Yeah. It was that and then Stay Sick.
Stay Sick now.
Stay Sick came out.
Oh yeah, well, I'm wrong. It wasn't Artery. It was Stay Sick.
Okay, I was gonna say, no wonder he's got like the experience.
That was Stay Sick in 2014.
No, it was Artery, not Stay Sick.
Oh, it was Artery.
It looks like Attila is on Artery. So, like, I don't know. That's interesting.
Weird. You think he'd be booked on his own label? I guess maybe not.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Take some hands off.
Yeah, but that label did a lot of shit back then. It did like My Damnation, Chelsea
Artery
Green,
had they had Through the Eyes of the Dead.
I Declare War, Malevolence. Yeah. Like, it's got a couple of the classics.
I haven't heard Through the Eyes of the Dead in a long time.
Right? Yeah.
They were cool.
They were also game changing. I mean, there were so many. I think because we're starting to get old, gentlemen.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna start saying stuff like, "Oh, there were so many crazy bands game changing back in 2008, 2009, whatever, all around those years." But I feel like there's always bands that are just doing crazy, awesome new stuff all the time. It's just that I'm a little jaded to it now.
Yeah, well, I think the newer bands are also not doing stuff that connects with us as much, because we're not the in generation anymore.
Yeah, we're a bunch of boomers now.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think about the hardcore that was coming out around 2010. Like, I think of like Demolisher's first EP, which is fucking crazy.
Chicago was crazy in those years, for sure.
Yes,
Demolisher and the Acacia Strain and things like Kublai Khan and like
Sworn In, Start End.
Sworn In. And I guess the last one of that generation was, I think the last one of that generation was like the Knocked Loose, like their first EP. That seemed to like be the capstone that, like, then the next Knocked Loose album was like, here's the next generation of that sound. But I do feel like maybe this is just me getting old, right? And me getting jaded, but I feel like we've lost something in that the newer deathcore bands don't have that same feel that I want when it comes to like bands from that time. They don't have like as much hardcore influence anymore. It seems like actual like death metal influenced hardcore or deathcore is becoming more and more popular again, which is cool. I mean, it's all good music, but I miss it.
I mean, I definitely feel what you're saying, because I mean, you could just look at Lorna Shore's recent stuff. I mean, they're their stuff is great.
Yeah.
And it's booming to the top of whatever ladder you can even get in deathcore or death metal or whatever you want to call it. But definitely not really hardcore influence. Definitely more melodic or not atmospheric, symphonic vibes in it, and a lot of blasting like and stuff. It's cool though. I like it.
Yeah. It just sounds like Emperor. It's like the scene kids finally found Emperor.
it's not, it's definitely not the same deathcore as like the dirty VFW getting punched in the face by a sweaty guy deathcore. They both have their pros and cons, I guess. But
yeah, I think there's an interesting topic in Lorna Shore. Like if we think about why bands like Lorna Shore blew up, because they've been around for like 10 years. Like these guys have been around, and like they've been like an underground kind of band the whole time, but then they had the one song that made them blow up, and it was because of TikTok. It's because they had the soundbite. They had him like, doing the pig kind of sounding noise before the breakdown, and like that blew up. So I guess what I'm trying to say is how do you think TikTok has changed music?
Man, you're asking me, this is a tough question. So I mean, this is the way I feel about everything lately, is I've kind of noticed that there's two ways that I could look at anything that people ask me. Like if you ask me an opinion on anything, because I could give my boomer opinion on TikTok and say that TikTok is for ADHD, mentally ill kids to get their serotonin fix or whatever, or you could just kind of look at it more objectively even and say, I mean, it is the new media right now. I mean, it's not the new media, but it's a big deal. People are spending so much time looking at that. In 5-10 years, who knows if people are looking at stuff like TikTok far more than they're looking at any other platform, which, I mean, that's scary, but that's a whole nother topic, I guess, of conversation. I mean, if you can blow up by any means, it used to be viral YouTube videos like Smosh or something, back in the day. I mean, there's always just going to be phases, and you don't really know where it's going to go. TikTok could be gone in a year. I mean, kind of doubt it, considering
700 million active users.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. So I think TikTok's here to stay forever.
For a while.
Instagram's still around. Facebook's still around, but Facebook might be in decline now. So I mean, this stuff all comes in waves, just everything does. But
Facebook seems to work for people our age, guys who are starting to push 30. Like Facebook seems to still work for us because that's like our whole peer network was built on that. So for us, I think it still works, but I don't think younger kids are using it like almost at all.
Yeah, I hardly ever meet anybody under the age of like 16 that's using Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be talking to 16-year-olds anyway.
Well, family,
unless they're gonna rip some sick songs for you to track or something.
Yeah, there we go. We'll go with that.
There used to be a bunch of cool bands. Like, didn't a lot of the bands that we grew up with start? It was like a bunch of 14-year-olds and blew up and got a record deal. I mean, that happened a lot more back then. I think it doesn't, because things are so competitive now, and there's more people fighting for that same space in the genres. Or maybe there was just, crazy talented people back then that no longer exist. But I just doubt that.
I think some of it was.
I think it's airtime.
I think there's multiple reasons. One would be MySpace was just a really good avenue for experiencing new music, and there was like a big push at that time to seek out new music, and the algorithm on that was really, really helpful. Facebook was bad at that when we were like 20-ish, right? So MySpace was gone, Facebook was there, and Facebook was horrible at promoting music, so that kind of killed that for a while. The other thing is, like, I think it's back because TikTok is great for pursuing new music. In fact, a lot of younger people say that that's how they discover new bands, is through TikTok. So
that's crazy to me.
Yeah, but the gist of what I'm getting at is, I think TikTok has changed music in that your song kind of doesn't matter anymore. It's like that 15-second sound clip seems to matter more than anything. And I think of one guy in particular who was way ahead of the curve with this was the rapper Freddie Dredd. Like, this guy from the UK has a ton of like beats that went like viral on TikTok, and all of his songs are like a minute and a half long. Like, the song is like almost nothing. It's like one verse pretty much, but like it has that thing. It'll have the beat with like the Italian guy saying something, or the sample from like the 1940s, and like it blows the fuck up. And he has this philosophy, it seems, of like just like volume of releases. Like he just releases a single like almost every month, it seems like, just music nonstop. And it seems to really be working for him. And it does make me wonder, is the age of 3-minute songs, has that come to a close? Do people really care anymore?
I don't think so. It's like the same as releasing a whole album. I feel like singles once a month is a better way to reach more people. Even if you're reaching the same people, you can reach them like 12 times over the course of a year rather than just once.
Yeah, I could agree with that. There's a lot of factors that go into it because, I mean, you've both made a bunch of music, obviously, and been involved in making a bunch of music. I've made some music. And one thing that we all know is that doing larger projects sucks. It's really good, like when you get to the end and you did a great job and everything came together pretty well. But like writing like 10 songs and tracking and engineering 10 songs, even having someone else mix 10 songs is, it's stressful, to do all that. If you can just release a minute and 30 seconds of really good shit very often, I mean, that will definitely keep you relevant more, so that's something that actually we have kind of considered indirectly. We're doing a 2-song EP this time around. I mean, we can go back in time if we want to talk about me and my band and stuff, and kind of get to where we got here. But at this point, we're thinking, for the money, for the amount of headache and stuff, it kind of makes more sense to do 1 or 2 songs, maybe 3 songs, shorter releases. It's not like we're not signed. We're not beholden to some contract or some label. We have no reason to fork over thousands of dollars at one time and put so much pressure on ourselves to track 5, 6, 7, 8 songs, and do all that at once. And, does that really get you more attention if you, say don't promote it so well, or you don't have PR, don't have any kind of help, and we're not professionals at promotion or anything like that. That's actually probably the thing we've struggled with the most. I think a lot of bands can agree, especially smaller ones or local ones. But why release that many songs and spend all that time and spend all that money when, you're fighting for airtime with a lot of artists and a lot of projects that are out there? It's probably better to release more short things to keep yourself having things in the pipeline and have more stuff coming out more often. I think it just makes more sense. Especially, like in regards to what you said about TikTok, if a 15-second soundbite could do more for you than writing 3 albums ever did, then why write 3 albums? You have a lot more shots at that if you don't.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of everything that you're saying is extremely relevant to me because I've been, for the last like month and a half, I've been recording an album for a band. So like just so much fucking work. And I am at this point, like considering, okay, next time I have a project this big, maybe I do delegate some of it. Like maybe I send them to track drums somewhere else and I get it edited because I can't do anything else in the meantime. It is taking up all of my time. It's all consuming. And I feel like I love the music, but I do feel as if I'm losing perspective on it because I've just done everything. I've done all the editing, all the tracking. Like at this point, I just hear like all the decisions I made rather than just like, when I sit down to mix, I don't just hear it for what it is and do what I need to do. So kind of besides the point, but
I'm big projects. Terrible mixer. So I've mixed. I watched some of the earlier episodes and you guys were talking about, taking breaks, stepping away. I'd step away from mixes when I quit trying to mix stuff, like seriously, like to take it seriously. I stopped. I'm not going to be doing that. It is stressful. I commend you guys for all that you do. You sacrifice your mental health to try to make music sound good so other people can sound good without having to do it. And that's commendable for sure.
You're not wrong at the sacrificing mental health part because
totally.
God, when you're just going back and forth, like tweaking something, glistening in the car, and you're like, fuck, like it's not right.
It fucking sucks, man. After a while, it's hard.
Yeah, draining. Man, of course. I've spent like a week like I had the recent codec stuff that I put out. I just put that out as is. It sounds bad. It doesn't sound that good. And I have no shame in saying that. That project is just for me to wank the guitar and play fast stuff that no one is going to want to do that in a project, I don't think. But
scratch that itch.
Yeah, I just wanted to push the guitar playing, I guess. But a long story short, I mean, I remember at some point when I was working on that, I would get in the car and be like, the bass is too loud. I'll go deal with that in 8 hours when I get home from work. I'll deal with that. The next morning, listen to it again. Oh, there's another problem. The next morning again, and then
ongoing.
It's been a week now. The song still sounds bad. Like I go back to the first version, that I started with. It sounds better than the one that I have now. I just throw everything away. I'm not doing this.
Dude.
So it's definitely, I mean, I don't have the best setup for mixing either.
No, it's relatable. It's completely relatable.
Oh yeah.
But that's something that there's a reason why people should be paying people like you guys to do that sometimes. And it's because I don't want to do it again. I did get the first Codex EP sounding pretty good though. I did that one all myself. So it, there's definitely a balance, but not for me. Definitely not for me.
But even on I think it's important to and this isn't me jerking myself off. You had some help with that one, right? You said it to me and I gave you some pointers on things you could try. And I even do that with my peers, with every project that I do almost.
Absolutely.
I feel like that outside perspective is so fucking useful.
It definitely is, because I know that you and my buddy Ryan Wolonsky both, when I was at certain spots in it, I had sent it to you guys and you guys were just able to kind of talk me through a couple things that you heard. Definitely helps. Because like you said about losing perspective, sometimes just hearing someone that you trust, who has a good ear, tell you something, you can just take their word for it. And then sometimes after the change, you can see how it's benefited things, but you wouldn't have been able to get there otherwise.
Yeah, because your perspective is gone. Is Ryan the guy who's done all the Noxious stuff so far?
No, Ryan did our first album. He also did, if you're familiar with Domed, he did them.
Yeah, Pat's
I believe.
band.
Yeah, I believe he did I believe he did the earliest Wormhole EP.
I love that EP.
That might not be true, but I think he worked on that. He definitely did work on Crucial Rip from Richmond. He did one of their EPs or albums. He's done a bunch of stuff,
Yeah, he's sick. He's sick. You should connect us sometime. He should get on.
Yeah, definitely. Actually,
he's really good at what he does.
Yeah, he's great. He also, I think he does URM stuff. He does graphic design for them or something.
That's really cool.
He moved to California.
Ooh, so, man.
I know California's big, but I know you, Andrew, I know you live in California now. So, have lived in California. So
he lives in hick country. He lives way out there.
As far north as it gets. Booty hole for music.
Near Seattle?
What's
or Washington?
Just 30 minutes below the Oregon border.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually calculated it on the episode with Ingvar. He's closer to a Tim Hortons than he is to LA.
It's 9 hours and 58 minutes or something like that.
That's unfortunate.
I have to go to Tim Hortons one of these days.
I mean, you might as well have went in not Rome, but wherever that is,
wherever I am,
wherever that place is, you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah. Never even heard of the place till we did that. What the fuck is a Tim Hortons?
To be fair, I never fucking heard of Wairika, California before I met you. I mean, this is not a place people talk about. I think it's interesting that, and maybe this is similar for you, Mike. Andrew lives, I'm going to put this water down because now I have a point to say. I'm not just going to hold it for a minute. I think it's interesting that Andrew's been able to do fairly decently over the last year. And he's had people drive an hour or two to come work with him because nobody fucking lives near him. He lives in a town of 5,000, right?
Yeah, that's in a way.
What was the client that lived really far away? Was it 3 hours, Andrew?
Yeah, 4 hours. My friend Chandler, he's doing that goth rock project. At first, he was 2 hours away, but he recently moved for school down to Sacramento.
Jesus, man.
He doesn't commute nearly as often anymore with gas and 4 hours, but he still makes the drive sometimes.
So what I think I'm trying to say is, I don't actually know exactly where you live, Mike, but I'm imagining Virginia is sort of similar in that it's probably pretty spaced out. Just around. There's just a lot of nothing. You live around stuff?
Yeah. So I live in Virginia, but it's kind of, I mean, you're close enough by. You've been down here, right?
Probably. What's your address?
Let's put this on live.
What town do you live in?
Right now I live in Dumfries.
Dumfries, VA. Let's see where that is.
So it's close to DC.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that is
so,
around a lot of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not in hick country, yeehaw land.
Nice.
If you get if you go, there's kind of like there's Nova, and then there's Fredericksburg, Richmond, and Virginia Beach. And I mean, I'm sure there's a couple other places that are a little bit more metropolitan or city like. But the rest of Virginia is just like, I don't know what's out there. I don't really plan on being out there very much. If I move, I'm going to move north, ideally. Somewhere Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
Philly.
New York.
Go to Philly.
That direction, at least, you know.
Philly is the place if you're gonna play hardcore music. That seems to be the mecca in terms of the East Coast. Either that or New York, but Philly seems to be where it's at.
I've heard a lot about Philly.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
And then Will Putney is pretty close by in New Jersey. So like there's a lot of good shit kind of in that area of Philly, New Jersey, and New York.
Dude, I'd love to go record with Will Putney. How much does he charge? Like $10,000 a song or something? Like,
I don't even know.
Pricey.
He's probably one of those guys where he doesn't have any pricing available on his website, because why would he? Like he's probably just getting like label offers. You don't want to lowball yourself by putting a cost on there.
He's just, I charge money, you know, I get paid, you know, it's all good.
Well, I actually think it's important just in general, like if you're doing audio or even as a band, like playing a show, like you shouldn't have like a set rate. Like you should always like play ball and see what you can get. You know what I mean? Like, definitely. And it's not underhanded, but like if somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, does $1,000 a song work? And you're charging less than $1,000 a song. You're like, yeah, $1,000 a song.
That works great.
Absolutely, it works. Yeah, why not?
You don't want to fuck yourself out of a payday.
You just take that $1,000 a song and you make sure you deliver $1,000 song quality. And step up to the plate. Big boy time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I say that being someone who won't mix anymore. So, you know, not me, but you guys. It applies
to various things.
The album that I'm working on, I actually did get them for $1,000 a song for this one, and I can tell you I've been working my fucking ass off for it. It's no joke. They're long songs. They're like 6 to 9 minute songs. Like they're really long, so that also factored into it. Yeah, you're telling me drum editing that shit sucks, but
I think
I bet, dude.
I think
we're doing a lot of new things.
That
like
much is.
Yeah, we did.
I think you deserve $1,000 a song
for
something like that.
Oh hell yeah.
We but I'm trying a lot of new things with this. So like this time, I got like a drum tuner, like an electronic drum tuner. So we've been making sure the heads were always in tune, like between songs and stuff like that. Just paying extra attention to details. We when we were getting drum tones, we didn't just set up the mics and go. It was like we tried a couple of things and got the best possible sound we could. We swapped mics out if we needed to. And then the biggest thing I think that we tried differently with the drums is this time I decided I was going to sample his entire kit. So like every single part of it, we got multi-velocity samples, and I'm using that to trigger the kit. So like the drum set sounds like a modern kit, but it's being reinforced with his own drum sound. So like,
so cool.
That to me is like, I think that's the way forward that I get to that next level, because I think my productions are fine. It's just, they sound like, you know, the last couple of productions sounded like I was using Steven Slate drums, because I was.
Sounds like my mix.
Yeah. I don't want to have
Steven Slate drums sound good though.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah,
everybody sounds good. You want to have your own sound. Like if you can get it like already sounding good, that's cool. But like the next step is like developing your own signature sound. And I think for me, it's like, okay, what can I offer to bands? I can offer making trigger instruments of their entire drum set each time they come now. And when this album's done, we're also going to be selling that as a trigger instrument pack. So even though it's not as easy as it is, you know, in other plugins, you could technically build an entire MIDI kit of his drum set. You know, just with trigger, which would be really, really cool. And I'll have to mix that again and try to make it sound like the album. But that's
awesome.
New.
That sounds really cool. I mean, is that something you could offer as like a product and you could keep making more packs? I mean, isn't that essentially kind of how like a company like GGD gets started?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, you never know, tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but you know, somewhere down the road, you might be doing the same thing. You never know.
Yeah.
Don't pass up the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it's same with like this podcast, right? I guess we should get into the total deathcore thing soon, but it's same with this podcast. Is like I think it's always smart to like diversify like what you're doing. In a band sense, like for you, you're diversifying and that you're trying different producers and like you're like linking up with their networks now. Because once you go to Ryan Harvey, he's going to blast your band out to everybody he knows. And that's huge. That just networking in general is huge. And it's similar for us. Like I've gotten to talk to some people who I've been Facebook friends with on here for a while, but I've never like talked to them really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's been cool. Now they're my friend. And recently Andrew and I became involved with, I guess we're just doing everything together now, Andrew. Fuck.
It seems like it, dude.
You guys could make your own coalition, like the audio coalition or something, you know?
Yeah. Well, we already, so we recently partnered with Total Deathcore, and they're in-house mixing engineers now. But they also want us to start making content for their YouTube channel. And that's like, not something I expected. Their YouTube channel has like 23,000 subscribers. So it's got a decent like subscriber base. So all of a sudden now I'm learning how to do more video editing. That's like, oh shit. Oh, yeah. Okay. Just diversifying, just trying a little bit of everything, because you don't really know what's going to stick until you do it. I love working on albums, but I also love not working on albums because it's stressful.
And you're not wrong.
Yeah. Anyone who's been part of one of those album things you're talking about absolutely understands.
Yeah.
Stressful. Definitely.
I think recording brings out the obsessive compulsive behavior in anybody who's doing it, because you kind of just have to be that way. And like, I don't really like indulging that side of myself that much because it is unhealthy, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's super unhealthy just to obsess over things to the point where you're driving yourself fucking crazy. But just got to try to find a balance. And for me with this album, it's been just chipping away at it bit by bit, because I know when the deadline is, and the first single is due in like a little less than a month and a half. So like I still have time, and I've just been like, okay, just slowly taking care of the editing. Like Andrew and I were talking about earlier today, like giving yourselves goals is important. Like each day it's like, okay, I'm getting this done. And as long as I get this done this day, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Doesn't matter if I only work a few hours, but if like this gets done, then I'm still on track to do the next thing on time, and then I'll meet this deadline. So, which is hard for a procrastinator like me. It's really difficult. I was bad in school, like horrible. I just waited until the day before to do assignments.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea.
The whole time, all 4 years. These tremendous science projects. I mean, I had an old drum kit, and I'd make these like cellular cell projects, nucleus and stuff out of drums, dude. And I waited till the last day to do it. And I stayed up till like 3 a.m. finishing it. That translates into my adult life too. I'll wait, trying to get out of that habit. It's hard. And just be steadily progressing. And that's where those kind of little goals come in. Start small and kind of maybe work yourself into bigger ordeals, bigger goals, as you can kind of manage it mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are two things that I feel like you could apply what you guys just said to every facet of people's lives. And if they were just really stuck to it, it would make things a lot better. But people have trouble, including me. I'm not trying to sound like I'm some guru guy. I'm not here to be like a life advice coach or Joel Osteen,
buy my
some
course.
Crazy person. Yeah. But definitely, keeping track of that and having that self-discipline and planning ahead is just invaluable skill. It'll change your life if you don't have that skill.
Yeah.
It helps a lot.
I feel like long as you're always working, I feel like as long as you're always working towards something, like that's good. It doesn't matter how slow the progress is. If you can like track your progress every single day, like we were saying, like doing things bit by bit, then cool. I mean, whatever it is, life never seems to happen as fast as we want it to. But then you look back on the last 10 years and you're like, fuck, that felt like a week. Way too fast.
No kidding. Flew by.
But like progress doesn't seem to happen that quickly.
Because that's the perfect segue, I think. If we're gonna talk about me a little bit.
Sure.
So you said the last 10.
How self-centered, Mike? You think we're gonna talk about you on the podcast?
This is our podcast.
I only say this because you just set it up for me. I mean, it was like a goddamn punchline, man. But you said 10 years. 10 years ago, I was recording a Line 6 Spider with the gain knob and the treble knob all the way up and the other knobs all the way down into a Sennheiser mic, into an audio box, into GarageBand.
Beautiful.
There is no way that I would have ever pictured 10 years later being a competent guitarist who has some ability to do engineering and other audio related stuff myself, you know, to the point where at least I can write and demo out my own songs and do some light mixing. You know, who would have thought? But you know, you don't know until you get there, I guess. You just keep going forward.
I think competent is underselling yourself. You're nuts guitarist, dude. You really
sounds amazing.
I mean, what is nuts though?
Nuts is better than me. That's my category.
But I couldn't pick up a Jazzmaster and play anything that someone is going to want to hear unless it's just like jazz tone taps or something like that, which is cool. You know, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, it's kind of just one of those things where you don't see the forest through the trees. You don't see the journey until you can look back.
It's a good saying.
Or whatever it is. You know, more sayings.
There's always people, and I'm sure you guys all meet these people who say things like, I could never learn guitar. And it's like, yeah, you could. Just gotta fucking.
Did you even try?
Yeah.
Try, bro.
I tried for like a year and I just wasn't good. It's like, yeah, I sucked after a year too.
Yeah. It takes a while.
Yeah. You got to put in the work. Like nobody's just born good at guitar. Certainly.
Let's say they can't figure it out, but they practice like 2 hours a week.
Dude, yeah,
it's like man, that's not going to do it.
I sucked for like 2 years until I got okay, and then I sucked.
Yeah,
you know, for a long time after that. I thought I was better than I was.
Yeah,
it's a fun journey though. I enjoyed like every minute of that. That was really cool.
Yeah,
enjoyed is one way to put it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's for sure.
I guess it just kind of flew naturally, learning covers and stuff, and then kind of just took reins after that. I didn't find myself like actually sitting down to try and learn stuff. I do now. And that's why I don't play guitar as often anymore.
Yeah, it's understandable. I have
different mental space.
I haven't learned a lot of songs, to be honest. You know, I mean, I remember the first song I ever learned how to play was I learned how to play Most of Wide on My Face by Carnifex. And I learned it playing on the high school acoustic guitar, you know, and that was annoying. I don't think people like that. I don't think the teacher cared for it. But you know, I didn't really know where I was going with that. But fun fact,
Carnifex somewhere.
It's a cool song.
What age did you start guitar?
I picked up a guitar for the first time when I was 15.
It's pretty late.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you're as good as you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this dude I knew, I was friends with for, you know, before I moved to Virginia in 2008. It was like right before that. I just played his guitar in his room when I was over at his house a couple times. You know, he could shred and tap and play, you know, back then in those days. I think he was younger than me, and he was playing like what's that Van Halen's famous solo Eruption? He could like play stuff like that. And you know, I didn't play guitar at the time, so he taught me how to play like Smoke on the Water in like drop D, you know.
Cool.
That kind of, like, I'm not even joking. Like, you know, that's, you know, that kind of stuff. I got my own guitar in sophomore year of high school, and I don't know, I just kept playing on and off. Took a mostly break from guitar for a number of years to do a lot of drugs and a lot of drinking and not really accomplish any goals in life, but got out of that slowly and just ended up here, I guess. You know,
I feel like most people have like a drug or drinking stage in their early 20s, like
especially people in music.
Yeah. Mental health and music is not all that good. And like for me, that stage happened for me because I tried like the psychiatric medication route and it didn't help at all. Like, I don't know whether I was just misdiagnosed or like I kind of just gave up on it, which is bad. Don't do that. Go to therapy. I don't do it. You should.
I have opinions that, you know, I don't need to get into too deeply.
Same.
I mean,
I'm jaded.
I'm going to get into it anyway. We're already here. We have brought it up, you know, we're going to say it.
Hit it. Yeah.
I think that there are people who could use therapy, and I think there are people who probably won't benefit that much from therapy. You know, I think it comes down to how objectively someone can look at themselves and accept and understand themselves and accept and understand their problems honestly. Yeah. Some people cannot see themselves. Those people probably need therapy. I don't think that I would benefit from therapy. I think I would make the therapist depressed. Maybe I just sound edgy saying that, but I don't see how a therapist could make me see the world differently at all. And I'm not just trying to say that. I've thought this out for pretty thoroughly, you know, but I also don't think I need it. I think everybody says that. Who needs it, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like going to therapy never made my life better. Mm-hmm. Like for me, the only time my life has ever gotten better is when I just kind of like, you know, I don't want to do the whole conservative pull yourself up by your bootstraps bullshit, but it is really that, like, until you decide like, all right, I'm just going to do the hard thing and actually like take more responsibility and like get on my shit. Like then your life just doesn't get better. Like, because for me, it was never like, it was never not knowing myself, right? Like I know exactly what's wrong with me. It's just hard to deal with. Yeah. But now I'm older and I know how I work. I can kind of recognize patterns and just be like, hey, when stuff starts going south, I'm like, check yourself, like watch out.
I think that's the key that people don't like to hear. Yeah, I don't think it's a conservative thing at all to say that. I mean, you know, really, it's just you have the option of, if you have problems and you know you have problems, you can, I'm not saying to not get help, just to make that clear before I say this. If you feel that you need help, anyone, not speaking to you guys, absolutely go get it, you know, as soon as you can, as soon as you're able to. But if you can be super tough and be a tough guy and just hold it together and deal with it successfully, I mean, that's great. I mean, ideally, isn't that that's the end result you're looking for, right? You know, whether it be to be cured or to deal with it is a semantic difference.
But I think when it comes to mental health, being cured is like a false, like
the
idea.
magic
like,
pill. The pill will fix it.
If you have depression or anxiety, like it's chronic. It's always going to be there to some extent. Like you have to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, oh, it's gone. Yeah, yay, everything's great, like the commercial.
Yeah, it's like when your parents or somebody says to you, like, have you like just get up and go work out? It's like, yeah, it's so simple. Why didn't I fucking think of that?
Like, I can only lift about half the weight that I would normally be able to if I felt good because my chest hurts. But thanks. You know, thanks for the input. I appreciate that.
Good
like,
pep
Mom,
talk, man.
I can't even fucking shower right now, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, I don't miss the early 20s. Like I miss the freedom, because like, you know, you could just do anything that you fucking wanted. It kind of didn't matter.
The lack of responsibility
I miss
to some degree.
But it was also, I don't miss all the mental health shit. Like I look back at it fondly, but when I actually think, I remember just how fucking bad I felt all the time. Like, nah, man. Like, and not even to go on about my own personal problems, but like you guys know that I'm dealing with like some crazy fucking medical shit right now. That's just fucking debilitating.
Dude, it's like, you ate too many microplastics, man. You fucked up. I'm sorry.
Because I drank out of water bottles my whole fucking life.
Sorry, man. You hecked up. You hecked up, dog. I don't know what to tell you.
But like even with all that shit, like my mental health is still better than it was in my early 20s. And objectively, my life, I'm dealing with worse shit now. Like it is just crazy how your brain works as a child and you're not able to like be more objective about your emotions like you can as an adult. And I don't miss that.
I agree. I would be appalled if certain things were done differently, or people told me to do certain things about my problems back in those days. Man, who knows what would have happened? But in reality, I'm here now. I've been sober for over a year, completely. And honestly, everything's just kind of coming together. You know,
it's great.
You know, who knows if that works for everybody? It probably doesn't. There's how many billions of people on the planet? I'm sure a lot of people are getting shafted every single day, and it sucks. But I'll just consider myself lucky and say, thank God that it's starting to work out for me, even though I'm still poor.
Yeah, I feel that.
You know? You're sober.
Yeah, but sober and slowly accomplishing goals and just having a direction is a big deal. And I think a lot of people in the world today, it seems like it's harder to have that unless you already had that from the get-go.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody can find their way. You know, there's definitely something for everyone.
I absolutely agree. And it is interesting though. Like, did your parents instill this work ethic in you? Were you around people who were working hard, or is this something you came to on your own?
Well, my situation, I mean, I'm not going to get too much into my personal life, but my situation is kind of that my dad was always a hard worker and kind of always had goals. And that did not, I'd say that it kind of went against me early on, because my mom would enable if we're going to get deep into this shit.
Yeah.
So I kind of took the liberty of being a fuckhead, at an earlier age. And it was kind of really just on my own, where I just decided, like, hey, you don't want to be that guy who's 27, 30, 33, who's living with his parents, doesn't have shit going for him. You don't want to end up there. And at some point I started to steer myself away from being a lazy bum, because it doesn't really do you any good. It's a much better feeling to know, and you guys know this, if you guys are literally working for yourself, so you understand the value in just producing. You have to actually produce something of value and do something for yourself. The satisfaction of doing that is so much better than being reliant and comfortable on some situation that maybe isn't really the best for you.
Yeah,
I would think
100%. Absolutely.
I hung on to living at my parents a bit long. I feel I could have moved out maybe like a year or two earlier. There was like tension between my parents and I, because I felt like I was independent, but I wasn't. And like, it wasn't until I actually like sat down and crunched the numbers. I'm like, I can afford to move out right now. Like, I'll be okay, and it was good for me, but it did take a while to get there. And it was same thing with me, Mike. Like, my dad was always a really hard worker. And, we butted heads all the time when I was younger because of that. Because, I mean, I was a fucking good kid until like the end of high school, and then I turned into kind of a shithead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I still got good grades, but I was like a shithead then after that. And like, same thing, mom kind of enabled it. Like, she would always make excuses for me.
Kid.
And like,
he's a good
yeah,
kid.
Yeah. So I fully relate. But I do think that, even though me and my dad fucking fought so much, and he didn't even want me to go into music, it really seemed like, I mean, he loved that I played music, but like the idea of doing that for a job, like, scared the shit out of him.
It's
rightly
not,
so, because
it's not when my mom used to say, she's Asian, she'd say doctor, lawyer, pilot. When she told me that when I was like 5. She told me that when I was like 5, which is actually kind of, I mean, that's its own thing. We don't have to get into that. What that could do to someone's brain.
Jesus, yeah.
But definitely didn't become any of those things. So sorry, Mom, if you're somehow seeing this, which I doubt you are. My bad.
Yeah, but you're basically
do
doing, you repair equipment, right? So
I do repair electronics.
And you know how to build electronics as well, I'm guessing, because of that. Like,
to some degree.
So some engineering, like, in a funny roundabout way, you've actually gotten to do some work that is somewhat, on that level that an Asian mom might actually not hate you for.
in the most roundabout way, I really did start going in that direction without even realizing it, because of music, ironically. Which is, it's silly how things work out. I mean, don't get me wrong though. I mean, I'm not like a double E or whatever you call it, like electrical engineer. I did take a electrical engineering online class at one point. It was like a 18-month program type thing, and I passed it. But if you ask me any of that stuff now, I don't remember. You don't use that stuff, you're gonna forget it. I'm not Albert Einstein or something where I'm remembering these formulas for the rest of my life. Who knows if he even remembered it? He probably had notebooks too,
Yeah, but
we'll only remember him by the stuff he had written down.
Yeah, if you can do the things that you want to do with it, then that's what matters.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Like, my roommate is an electrical engineer. He also does like coding.
Big brain.
He also has a fucking degree in classical bass performance. So like, he's all over the place. He's just a smart fucking guy. Same way, like he except he like pushes himself all the time with it. Like, he's decided, instead of just pursuing music, after a while of doing classical music, he was like, fuck this, like, I hate this lifestyle. So he got into the engineering side. Now he's just like learning all this coding shit, and he's got a really good coding job. And like, do you like this? And he's like, yeah, I just learn something every day, so I like it. I think that's cool. I think that's important. The idea of we're just going by the seat of our pants here. I don't know where this is going, but I think I'm starting to put it together.
Hey, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
I think the idea of like, as long as you're learning all the time, you'll stay engaged with it. That's really, really important. Like, in audio especially. I've had and music in general. Like, I've had projects where I kind of just went through the motions, and like it does feel like soulless at that point, you know. And then
it does.
With this latest project I'm doing, I'm trying tons of new stuff, and even though it's stressful, like super excited about it again. I think that's the key. I'm sure you can relate on guitar. Like you get stuck, and then you're like, well, I guess I got to learn some more theory or something. Like you have to do something to spice it up.
Yeah, like I definitely have gone through phases with guitar where I'll be very hyper focused whenever I am playing guitar, which is not daily. Sometimes I don't play guitar for like a month. I don't know if that's normal for people who write music, but yeah, sometimes I get home, if I even pick up a guitar, you know, play it for like 2 minutes and just like, there's nothing. I just don't have anything.
Not feeling it.
Yeah. It just doesn't have that spark, whatever it is. But sometimes I will, every time I pick up my guitar for some period of time, I will be kind of hyper focused on playing one genre of music or kind of going in one direction. Like for example, when I wrote the first Noxious album, that was in the exiting of our old metalcore band, which in Noxious, the bassist Tony and the drummer Adam, we were all in an older metalcore band, you know, previous to that, and we had done a full-length album right before that band broke up for various reasons. But the whole first Noxious album was just me riff diarrheaing, and I wrote like 15 songs or something, and we chopped it down to like 10 or whatever it is in the end. And I just went to Ryan and just tracked all the guitars and bass. We had Adam come in and play the drums that Ryan and he kind of just got together. And then everybody else figured out lyrics. I actually had nothing to do with the lyrics in that album. But that whole album was just me trying to figure out what I wanted to do and write in some direction. And then, you know, honing in on what we sound like now was just a process of, okay, now we're a band, so what do we actually want to do? What do we feel like is the actual direction we're going? So that album is almost not really a Noxious album in a sense. That's really just a big mashed together collection of ideas that wasn't really a cohesive thing. You know, I wouldn't say we made it as cohesive as we could make it seem like without actually changing anything. Same thing with writing Codex. When I wrote the Codex of the Gods material, actually, I wrote like 3 of those songs on an A string and later translated them to 6 once I wrote the 4th song that was on the first EP. And then the 2 songs that are more recent, that came out recently, I actually had those written back before the first 4 songs ever came out. I just never got around to actually doing all of them because we were going to do vocals and it never worked out. Timing was bad. Vocalists couldn't find a place to go. In my new place, I can't have people screaming in here. You know, I live with 4 roommates and I don't get home from work until like 7 o'clock. So
yeah,
you know, not something that's really an option. But yeah, I think that in all of those, you know, tying that together, every single period of time where I was focused on writing in some particular direction, it gave me abilities or insight into something that I would have only gotten from focusing on just that direction. And that's what's now gotten me to the point where I can pick up my guitar and play a bunch of different subgenres of music relatively well, I would like to think, or write riffs for different genres, because I've kind of spent enough time just focused on that particular direction that I kind of have a little bit of a repertoire that I can pull from somewhere, you know, because if you've never worked in a style, I mean, you have no idea. Like if I went and go try to write a funk song, I mean, I wouldn't be able to write shit. I'd have to try to copy somebody and then change it or do something disingenuous. But with metal, now that I've tried doing so many different things, I feel like I can pull something together from experience instead of trying to write it for the first time, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I guess that's where everybody gets to eventually.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with, I know we say copying is bad, right? Like plagiarism, but I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with like kind of stealing the vibe of a song. You know what I mean?
Vibes.
Like,
yeah, dude.
Like like I'll hear, pretty often I'll be listening to a genre like a while ago was math rock, like Japanese math rock from like the early 2000s. And I had the Jazz Master. I'm like, I can get these tones now. Like I want to do something with that. And I wrote a couple of songs like that. I was listening to like 2 or 3 bands. And like, if I listen back to the songs that I wrote, almost every song is like, it's like a love child of 2 songs that I liked essentially. Yeah. Like, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Or like, I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't really learn other people's music anymore, but if I'm starting to play a new genre, like that's a good time to at least learn like one song. Like, okay, this seems like,
what am I actually doing here?
Exactly.
Like, let's feel it out.
What kind of, especially with something like math rock, it's like, how do they structure their chords? Like what type of things are they doing? And then once you get that, it's like, then you can kind of just take off and go your own direction with it. But I don't know. I feel like if people knew exactly, if it was like, yeah, I kind of like took like this and that from those songs, they'd be like, oh, I see. You know what I mean? But it is a completely new piece of media. So I wouldn't feel too bad about that, especially because in the pop sphere, they take chord progressions from everybody else.
All the time.
Yeah. Pop music is, I'm sure that everyone feels a different way about this, but I'm not a fan. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I hate pop music. It's so popular. It's just not interesting to me. Like it's really like formulaic, and it's like, oh yeah, we're doing the song thing, and then the verse, chorus, and it's just I don't know. It doesn't feel like it has the same. It doesn't have energy in the same way as some other genres of music. Like I'm not saying it doesn't have energy, and it doesn't sound good, and it doesn't have the low end of the balance or whatever, but it's not the same.
I just don't like where pop music is at right now, like the genres that it's pulling from. But there's types of music that I guess people would consider more indie, but like something like shoegaze or dream pop, where like it's pop chord progressions, like it's all built off of Britpop from the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like pop verse, chorus. It's very, very catchy, but then it has something interesting sonically going on. It's got all the atmosphere and the reverb, or it's got the big wall of sound. Like there's got to be like a hook more than just like, here's a pop song, here's a good singer.
Nowadays, I feel like, there's been 100 billion of those. So there has, I feel what you're saying, that there has to be something a little bit, there got to be a cherry on top or some whipped cream or something, or some regular cream.
Totally.
With pop for a while, it was pulling from hyperpop, like Sophie and stuff like that. Or I guess 100 Gex could be called hyperpop. I have no idea.
They're interesting. So.
Yeah, they're interesting is one way to put it. I depending on my mood, I either love it or I hate it. So
yeah, it's a very niche thing.
Yeah, but like Charlie XCX a while ago, and like I don't listen to her music, but she did have like hyperpop stuff creeping in back in like 2016 or something, or 2017, and then
pretty cool
a year
music.
or two later, like a bunch of pop artists all of a sudden had that kind of like glitchy hyperpop shit coming in. So that's interesting. For a while, pop was stealing from vaporwave. Like in like 2018 or so, it felt like vaporwave was just going to explode and be like the biggest genre on, the next.
And then it
big
just
thing.
Became pop too.
Then it became pop music with 80s drums and the vaporwave like synth. Like,
Hey, I get it though.
Yeah,
there's definitely something there.
Yeah, no, it's a great sound. I wish that like the cool stuff got more attention, but I think it was pretty.
Of course, you wish that, because that would include shit you've done, and it is good. It is good.
It
is, yes.
But to me, it's that was kind of eye opening. Like I feel like I got to see how the industry actually worked a little bit just by being involved in that scene as that was happening. So like I'm trying to predict what the next thing will be. Like what's popular right now. I think of like the kind of Tim Henson style math rock. So you have that guitar tone with like a trap drum. Like that's really big right now. But right now, Polyphia is way too progressive to be interesting to normal people, right? So
yeah, they're definitely they cater to a little bit. People have to have a little bit of nerdiness or tism kind of thing going on to be into Polyphia, I think.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I think maybe though that style, we're going to start hearing pop songs in the next few years where they're still pop, but maybe they'll have that guitar tone doing something. It might even be playing just normal pop, like
Ichika kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like maybe like that.
Yeah, like I could see that guitar tone being the only thing that pop lifts from that genre, because now that I've had that experience in vaporwave, I realized like that's not how shit works. A new genre won't take over pop, but pop will integrate elements of other genres.
Totally.
You can become a big pop star by being ahead of the curve, integrating it first, maybe, if you're lucky and you know a guy and he knows a guy.
Yeah.
But
and then they ask you to delete all your stuff off SoundCloud,
or
so
they're gonna
they can pretend that you're an overnight success.
Yeah, right. Hey, and if I could ever do something that someone would tell me to do, that would be cool.
We're all jealous.
Oh yeah.
Let's be honest. Like I wish I was making that kind of money and reaching that amount of people with my art. I really do.
Of course.
I think any artist, you know, because there's always the balance between art doesn't have to get recognition to necessarily be good art.
Yeah.
But
it's super true.
Obviously everybody wants to get at least some recognition, and if they don't, they're very, very different than the average person, or they're lying.
I do have a buddy like that who makes crazy, amazing music, and he just doesn't care if anybody really listens to it.
He's just like, oh, pop it up on the SoundCloud and never promote it, never share it.
He has a Twitter. There. He has a Twitter. The people on Twitter love it, but he never tries to market it anywhere. He doesn't really do much other than play some online fests occasionally. Like that's it for him, and that's cool. But like, damn, I couldn't imagine putting in all that effort to make that song and like not trying to push it towards people. And
at least a little bit, you know.
Yeah. I think probably the last topic we can get into, because we're approaching an hour. The last topic we can get into is balancing art with something that's actually something that people want to consume. So you always have to you have to try to balance that. Like you could go on your 8-minute thing with the ambient section in the middle, but then it's like, does the crowd that I'm trying to pander to actually want to hear that, or is that just for me? Like, is that self-indulgence?
That's a hard balance to hit. I think
it is.
I think that's one of my biggest problems with all of the music that I've written, actually, is that I know this because I've talked to a lot of people who don't listen to music. I'm sure we all have, or don't listen to music, don't play music or write music. When they hear whatever song you want to, say, and then when I hear that song, what we're hearing are two absolutely different things. I'll ask them like, oh, you don't hear that guitar riff, how they did this or how they did that. And they're just like, no,
it sounds cool.
Like they hear the vocalist and they hear the vibe. So maybe if I really wanted to get more success in music, maybe I should stop writing riffs for people who like riffs, and I should start writing songs for people who listen to music.
Yeah. Fuck.
That's cool. That's a really fucking hard. That's a really fucking hard thing to do, though, because that's not what I want to hear.
Yes.
And what if I don't write what I want to hear, then I won't like it, even if someone else might like it more. So that's a catch-22 that sucks.
But you just have to figure out how to integrate the things that you like into the music that they also want to hear. So you can have the simpler music, but occasionally you can throw in your widdly kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
And like the fact that it's done sparingly would be like, oh shit, to that crowd, rather than like where we want to hear that. Like my intuition as a guitarist is to be as technical as possible at any given time, because it's like it's fun to just like push yourself. But I've been writing like shoegazy post-punk music, and I'm listening to a lot of these bands, and I'm realizing like I'm overplaying. Like I have to like really strip it down. Like, and then the other thing is like I've been trying to write these songs now with vocals in mind, and it's different than with like screaming. Like melody is a lot harder to fit into a song, especially if a song is very jumbled, where you have just tons of shit going on. It's like, what are you supposed to do on the vocals at that point?
Yeah.
So like that's been pretty eye-opening to me. It's like leaving space for a singer to do something is really, really, really difficult. But I feel like it's been a great exercise as a musician, and it's helped me even with like heavier stuff I've written, because occasionally I still write stuff. Like now I can be like with the thing that I showed you, Andrew, where it sounds like old burials. It's like, I was writing that, and I showed that to you as well, Mike, a while ago. It's super simple. Like it's way more simple than the stuff I would usually write. But anytime I tried to spice it up, I was like, that's not what this crowd would want to listen to. Like that isn't the simple boneheaded hardcore. Like I know what this guy's like.
Knuckle dragging, IQ of 74. That's what you're going for,
Yeah.
It's good shit though.
Yeah. Sometimes that scratches the itch. Yeah, for sure.
Fuck yeah.
Musical maturity. And then the other big lesson is like, as musicians, we tend to stay away from cliche things because we're like, everybody does that. And it's like,
bleh.
Yeah. Well, but you have to start recognizing like everybody does those things for a reason. Because it probably sounds good. So you have to start recognizing, does this sound good here? And even if it's like, but everybody does it, like just fucking do it. Arf. Yeah, that's the new thing.
If it calls for it, then do it. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
Especially with chord progressions. I like really interesting like jazz voicings for everything.
Hmm.
I don't like hearing, just straight up chords, but sometimes I'll resolve it in a progression in a way where I'm like, I just have to do a normal basic chord, and that like pisses me off.
You don't want to just do a regular minor kind of metalcore riff. You're not about that?
Oh man, it just makes me angry when I can't do something exotic. But yeah, does the audience want to hear it is a huge question. Well, we are approaching an hour now. So Mike, what do you have to, what do people need to listen to from you?
Well, Noxious is going to be releasing 2 songs soon. I mean, big things coming soon, joke here or whatever. I don't really know when it's going to come out. We're going to actually try to promote it properly as we can, being a small band with no real backing or anything. So we'll see how far that goes. Yeah, keep a lookout for it. Our socials are down here in the description.
Yeah. We'll link your socials and Bandcamp for both the projects. And I guess one more thing I wanted to add is when it comes to marketing is I don't think you have to be a guru to do it. There's this guy I have on my Facebook named Teddy Herrera, and I remember him from like the Chango Studios forum or the group from like 10, 12 years ago, which is where all the kids like me and Andrew hung out when we were young and just starting this stuff. Yeah. And Teddy's now in this band called Catch Your Breath, which has like a #1 song on like Octane radio. And seeing his progression, I was chatting with him about it like a year or 2 ago. And it was literally just like, what do you guys do? He's like, we just like each put like $40 into ads every single week. And we just like figure out how to run those ads and get the most reach. And we are just consistently doing ads. We're not ever taking a break. So, I mean, it's a huge investment, but it's paying off for him now. So maybe that's something to consider.
That might be something we consider.
Yeah.
Because honestly,
super helpful.
That also falls in line with the shorter releases more often thing, more stuff to promote, constantly promoting. I mean, maybe that's really the key right there. Maybe that's what I should be doing. I can talk about it, but we'll see if we set it in practice and see if things actually happen.
We'll see if I actually even put out any personal music this year. I'm just going to keep being too busy or feeling too busy on other things. I promise at the beginning of the year, because I have so much music written for so many different projects and I want to get it out, but then I just have to like, put in 40 to 60 hour weeks on an album. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to touch music anymore. So brutal. But Mike, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We'll post this next Thursday, or I guess it'll be this Thursday when people watch it. Right now, we're here.
Right now. Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
How did we get here? Yeah, absolutely, man. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Cool talking, man.